This is a video tutorial for Phil 123, Module 7 on theories of incompatibilism. Now, if you remember, and if you don't remember, it's available in the handout for this particular module. Incompatibilism is a thesis about determinism, and it states that the truth of determinism is incompatible with the existence of free will. Some incompatibilists talk about free will, some talk about moral responsibility, but the basic idea is that the truth of determinism is incompatible with the existence of free will. Now, that much is something that every incompatibilist agrees about. You can't be an incompatibilist and not think that the truth of determinism is incompatible with the existence of free will or moral responsibility. That's just what it is to be an incompatibilist. But there's different kinds of incompatibilists, and the going can get a little bit tricky. Some incompatibilists think we do have free will. Some incompatibilists think we don't have free will. And so I want to spend a little bit of time carving up the territory and also talking about who's who in the readings. Now, again, now this is where the theories of free will flowchart that's available in the Module 7 resources is going to be kind of helpful here. One of the big distinctions then between different kinds of accounts of incompatibilism concerns whether they take sort of a hard line or a soft line. The first kind of incompatibilist that's worth talking about is who we'll call the libertarian. I should say this has nothing to do with the, if you like, political movement, political ideology, libertarianism. They're completely different things. Libertarians think several things. The first thing that libertarians think is that we do have free will. Libertarians are incompatibilists who think that we have free will. But because they think we have free will, they think that the thesis of determinism is simply false. They think that the thesis of determinism is false. Those are two things you need to think to be a libertarian about free will. Okay? So if you think that feel like you're an incompatibilist, but you're convinced we have free will, you're really stuck with being a libertarian. The challenge for libertarians is going to be how to explain how free will is possible if determinism is false. If you remember, one of the concerns that some people express in the readings is that if determinism is false, everything looks like chaos. Now, that's probably confusion. The mere fact that not every event is determined doesn't mean that all events are undetermined, and it doesn't mean that no event has a cause. What the incompatibilist simply says is even if there's only something like probabilistic causation or indeterministic causation, one event causes another, but it didn't have to happen. Okay? There's a chance that that event wouldn't have happened even if the cause was in place. The challenge for the libertarian is to explain how that's possible, that you could still be in control of what you do, still be responsible for what you do, even though determinism is false. Now what we see is there's really two different kinds of libertarians. There's what we'll call the agent causal libertarian and the event causal libertarian. Roderick Chisholm from the readings is our example of an agent causal libertarian, and Robert Kane is an example of event causal libertarians. Now, what's an agent causal libertarian? What's the difference between the event causal libertarian? The distinction is actually sort of tricky. Event causal libertarians think there's only one kind of cause, event causation. It's events that cause things to happen. Why did the dam break? The flooding of the waters. Okay, that's what caused the dam to break. That's an event. What caused me to get sick? Catching malaria while I was abroad. I don't have malaria, which is actually a good thing. That's an event. All causation, ultimately, says the event causationist, is caused by events and nothing more. The agent causationist says, oh no, there's other kinds of causes as well. Agents, critters like you and I can be causes as well. What causes our behavior, says the agent causationist, when we act freely, is not events in our brain, and it's not our upbringing or our habits or social conditioning or anything like that. We cause things to happen. And, crucially, nothing causes us to cause those things to happen. Now, it might be on this sort of account, the kind of account that Chisholm defends, what's going on when I decide to do something is that I, the agent, cause certain neural events in my brain to happen. My choosing to raise my hand causes some event in my brain to occur, and that causes my arm to go up, and you get the idea. But what gets the whole ball rolling is me, the agent, making a choice. Nothing determines, nothing causes, nothing forces me to make that choice in the first place. I'm a cause, not simply an event. Event causal libertarians, by contrast, think there's something weird about this. What would it mean to say that nothing causes me to make a particular choice? That sounds random. That sounds weird. And it also sort of increases our ontology of events. Sometimes, and there's some discussion in the Kane piece on this, so you're more than happy to take a look at that. Event causal libertarians say, no, no, no. What happens is that our choices, those are events, our decisions of a certain kind, sort of set everything else in motion. They don't determine what they do, but they might cause what we do. So Kane is our event causationist. It's going to be worth taking a look what he has to say about these kinds of things. But what Chisholm and Kane have in common is they're both libertarians. They're both incompatibilists who think that we have free will and therefore conclude that determinism is false. There's another kind of determinist out there, though, and this is the determinist we'll call a hard determinist. This kind of determinist is called a hard determinist because he takes a particularly hard line. What I mean by that is the hard determinist denies that we have free will. The hard determinist says two things. First of all, the thesis of determinism is true. Okay? And because of that, says the hard determinist, nobody's got free will. Nobody has it. Now, our best example of a hard determinist, well, that's actually a good question. It's not really clear who really considers themselves a hard determinist in our readings. Okay? But it's certainly a position. If you think determinism is true and you're an incompatibilist, this is the position you would wind up with. That just follows logically. It's logically impossible. It's not even conceivable if you think that incompatibilism is true and that determinism is true, that anyone could have free will. Now, one of the interesting things in the literature is that the positions have multiplied just a bit. There are other kinds of folks who deserve to be called incompatibilists, but they're kind of silent about the thesis of determinism. One of our best examples here is going to be the philosopher Dirk Pereboom. Pereboom says at the beginning of his paper, you know what? I'm silent on whether determinism is true or false. I'm not sure whether determinism is true or false. Nonetheless, Pereboom is an incompatibilist. He's not sure if determinism is true, but if it were true, he says no one has free will. But here's the other thing, and this is the position I will call hard incompatibilism. This is a position defended by Pereboom. It's also a position defended by Galen Strawson. They both claim that whether or not determinism is true, nobody has free will. Nobody's got it. Okay? So admittedly, the hard incompatibilist thinks that if determinism is true, no one's got free will. But still, for other reasons, they deny that anyone has free will at all. Strawson and Pereboom give different kinds of reasons for sort of defending their hard incompatibilism. But this is still another way of being an incompatibilist. So, what do philosophers like Chisholm, Kane, Pereboom, Strawson all have in common? Well, they're all incompatibilists. They all think that the truth of determinism implies that no one has free will. The only way we could have free will, say all these guys, is if the thesis of indeterminism is true. That said, there are different kinds of incompatibilists. Only Kane and Chisholm are libertarians. Chisholm's an agent causal libertarian, Kane is an event causal libertarian. Both Strawson and Pereboom, by contrast, are hard incompatibilists. They are free will deniers.